I was a part of a privately funded deep-sea research project that operated on some very unconventional ideas. The core idea of the whole thing was to get as much of the ocean to come to us as possible, so we wouldn't have to go to it. The head researcher, whom I'll refer to as John 1, for the sake of this retelling, had discovered that a certain species of not just fish, but crustaceans, mollusks, and several other delegates from all other kingdoms inhabiting the ocean would respond appropriately to sound if they heard it at the right frequency. This thought, or theory, even translates to whales hearing certain frequencies and responding, even communication amongst each other. Most of the money in the project had gone towards building a machine that would make and transmit these sounds and see if we could get a variety of marine life to come to us, so that riskier expeditions into the depths could ultimately be avoided. As you can imagine, it was not exactly smooth sailing from day one. We were basically trying to make an underwater dog whistle, so to speak. We had to figure out what kind of sounds these animals would respond to, let alone frequency, and how to make those sounds in such a way that they could hear them appropriately underwater, and that the sound waves would be transmitted. After around 4 months, we had compiled a general catalog of what species react to which sounds. It would never be a perfect guide. There were too many variables and possibilities. But we had a general idea of what neighborhood of frequency to play if we wanted to attract whales, like I told you, and what spectrum we should be in if we wanted to draw on octopi, and so forth. After nearly a year of research on the familiar, we were ready to make our move where we wanted to be from day one, calling whatever lived in the depths of the ocean. This was unknown territory, because we still didn't know exactly how far our sounds reached. Plus, we just didn't know how sensitive the animals were in those greater depths, or to our sounds. The entire ocean floor would be able to hear us, and we'd never know it. Once going to work, remotely guiding a mobile transmitter to an underwater cliff that overlooked a vast inky black gorge, at a depth that the machine would barely withstand. We had scheduled several different blasts of different frequencies for many hours in a row before rotating to a different one. Hours would pass with nothing. At times, we got a few species of fish to investigate. As far as we can tell, none were new. We had to cut the sound broadcast when one burst of sound got us a very large squid that was nearly shimmering with bioluminescence. It was clearly agitated by the sound and was looking to destroy the source of it. It swept in suddenly angry depths for the alarm. That squid also appeared to be a new species. Having gone through all the frequencies that we thought would likely bring up something, we began playing with frequencies that could have been judged as a waste of time. And that's what we thought they were at first. But as the hours went by, without the slightest stirring in the depths, there was one frequency we tried that we kept on for 5 hours straight. And we were about to change it when there was a sign of movement far below our location. Something passed through the lights of our remote unit. I thought it was going to be a dolphin, which, by the way, would have been absurd to see a dolphin at that depth, and alone, since they're usually in pods. But then I saw familiar curves, and then I saw what looked to be hair, and I felt my stomach drop. A humanoid shape of none other than the ugliest, what you would call mermaid, half human, almost half fish, but hideous. I verified with my other teammates in the room with me that we were all seeing the same thing. Its body was varying shades of blue and green. It was disturbing. In fact, I don't know if you've ever seen the footage, but you could probably find it on YouTube or Google. if you find and look for Deep Sea Expedition, Mermaid Puts Hand on Glass. It's pretty common circulating footage, but again, you might have not seen it. In the clip, it shows a deep sea dive expedition, some sort of humanoid shape, put its webbed hand on the glass and swims away. It freaks all the researchers out, and it's clear as day. In that clip, the creature we saw looked nearly identical. Hideous looking, large black eyes, webbed hands, almost half human, half fish. Not at all like fantasy portrays mermaids to be, a beautiful woman with the lower half of a fish. This was on an entirely different scale. Anyway, this entire experience and expedition has been beyond crazy, and after seeing that, well, we're learning slowly that certain frequencies can certainly churn up certain things. But I'm going to try and keep this short, and although this is slightly disturbing, nobody I can discuss this with will believe me. At least maybe a few people. So, I try to pass this along anonymously. So, for the sake of the story, I'd prefer to keep this and myself anonymous. I hope you enjoyed this. As far as the expedition and the frequency research, they are continuing to do even more things in the deep sea. I'll write back to you if there's anything new and exciting to share. At one point in time, I held the local record for the deepest dive for the longest time in the Pacific Ocean. You think that would be something that I could brag about? I experienced something while I was down there that has shaken me up badly, to the point that most of my dreams are about reliving that same moment. A local rich man, or a millionaire, had gotten bored and decided to see if he could, without any outside big government assistance, construct a bathysphere that could withstand the pressure of depths of the ocean. He was looking for somebody to pilot it and bring back something as a token of proof that they had been down there. I had some experience, both with diving and sailing, and I needed the money. So, looking into it, I got the job. It did carry the risk that I might not come back, but you do those kinds of things when you're single-handedly wasting your years on addiction and a dead-end job. The day came when all the equipment and personnel were ferried out over an underwater canyon. I won't lie, I felt apprehensive. Something about knowing that I would be descending into a hole underwater made it even more daunting. But I got into the sphere, and my descent commenced. The bathyspheres you see in the movies look like they're mostly transparent. I didn't have the luxury of that kind of visibility, period. It was the only way the thing would be able to withstand the pressure at the depths that I would be descending to. Several different times, I had to steer my way over to a ledge or an outcropping of a rock on my way down. I needed a moment to gather my wits. I could even feel the cold of the water turning the inside to almost refrigerator temperatures. Even with the humming of the electronics, the weight of silence was almost ominous. I made excuses, like I was taking pictures, or I was possibly recalibrating my instruments, or getting my bearings before I continued. Nobody questioned it. I dramatically slowed my descent when the structure began to groan. It didn't really mean anything. It just meant that this structure was adjusting to the pressure. But in my state, it was nerve-wracking. The deeper I went, the more static came to the surface. I touched down on another ledge, and it was at that point that distorted radio chatter let me know I was in the territory of setting records, period, and it was up to me how much further I would go. I felt a brief moment of elation, but it was instantly turned to terror when I heard an outside noise. I could not move or speak, as if to my dismay, as if to dismiss my hopes that this had all just been my entire imagination. I heard 3 distinct noises, almost in a pattern, a rhythmic pattern that were sharp and clear, not like they were created by debris that was drifting against the outside. Debating with myself as to whether I should let the surface know what was going on. If I were to give any indication that I might be losing my mind, there's the risk of botching the integrity of the expedition, and I might not get my place with the record. With superhuman will, I directed the structure to make one more drop to another lower ledge below. I controlled one of the claws to pick up a rock and a piece of creeping marine life. As I was about to begin my ascent, when there were 3 more bangs, the kind that were forceful enough to make me worry about the integrity of the hull of my ship being severely compromised. Let me tell you this, the depths of the ocean, where nobody else has been, is a very bad place to have a panic attack. And I was staring upward as fast as possible before that would happen. The noises kept coming, some of them being more violent, and by the time I got to the surface, I was a panicking mess. I couldn't speak in whole sentences. I did earn the record for the time, but it doesn't mean anything now. Something intelligent was messing with me down there, and I was defenseless. I would trade the record away if it meant forgetting about being down there alone with whatever wanted inside.